I think my value for these kids is going to be taking them out to dinner and having a 3-hour dinner. And over the first hour and a half, recognizing that they'll probably be pretty nervous and pretty tight. But by the second half of that dinner, they'll start asking real substantial questions. And there's so much that's expected here in New York, and it is so difficult to play in New York, that I think that's, as our staff and mentors, that's the best thing we can do, is get them ready for what's expected from them, because it is a handful.
Time now for That's What He Said, presented by Cheapo Air. That was Alex Rodriguez talking today about how he can help the younger players in his role as instructor down there in Tampa, John, for a couple days. I mean, to go out there and talk about how nervous people are going to be there sitting eating dinner with him, I mean, it's a little bit of a strange comment, but that's A-Rod. And listen, I do think whatever you think about Alex Rodriguez, here's what you need to know. He's respected by a lot of young players, and they look up to Alex Rodriguez for what he went out there and accomplished, and not necessarily the way and the style and fashion he went out there and did it with all the PED use, but A-Rod's accomplishments to younger players are held in high regard. So I do think his advice is helpful to these young guys down there in Tampa.
One of the best shortstops to ever play the game, slash third baseman, going to the Yankees, of course. But the one thing I never questioned about A-Rod was his love for baseball.
Loves it.
He loves baseball, and he really impressed me when he did the post-game and pre-game stuff during the playoffs. You could tell he knows his stuff. And when you look at him say things like that, you know, one, the guys are all getting a free dinner, which they have to be thrilled about.
Right.
But two, he wants to still be in the mix. He wants to be in the clubhouse. He wants to be part of the team. I believe when people said, you know, that he had offers, but he left the Yankees and he turned it down. He's done. He's retiring.
Yeah.
But he's never going to be away from baseball for a very long time.
No, he loves putting that jersey on. He adores it. He loves being part of the team, being at the ballpark. I think he's going to enjoy this job as instructor for the next couple days.
Now, here's A-Rod on whether he received any other offers to play elsewhere following his release by the Yankees last season.
I thought about it a little bit that weekend, and I was fortunate enough to have a few offers, and I called them back and just said, no, thank you. Grateful, appreciative for the opportunity. But again, the pinch reps mean so much to me.
Yeah, some are skeptical whether or not those offers were real. I believe it. I think one, A-Rod's going to sell tickets, and two, he's 4 homers away from 700, which is what I thought would motivate him to actually play a little bit more. But now, in reflecting, I think he's done. I do believe that he has sort of come to grips with where he is. Being paid $21 million to sit out a season doesn't hurt either when it comes to retiring, of course. No. But I think that he made up his mind, and he's ready to move on to the next chapter of his career. Would he have been serviceable at the end? Hard to say, because he was in a slump for much of the last season.
Right, and here's where you give Alex credit. You can't do it anymore. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And the Yankees are going to pay him handsomely, and he's made himself a lot of money in Major League Baseball, but he comes close to the point here, John, where he can no longer go out there and be the player that he once was. You know, and he's not going to go out there and embarrass himself in any way, shape, or form. So that's why I think Alex said to himself, I don't think it's necessarily, oh, my love of the pinstripes, because I think if A-Rod thought he could go out there and do it, I think A-Rod would be back in Major League Baseball. I think Rodriguez came to a conclusion where he said to himself, I can't do it any longer. I can't catch up to the fastball. It's time for me to say goodbye. And I agree with you. I do think those offers were there. All right. Finally, here's A-Rod's answer to whether he thinks about managing someday.
No. Look, I'm trying to get my life back in order. I'm trying to manage my daughters, and most of the times they're managing me. So, no.
Listen, he might not be thinking about it now, and listen, he's got a young family, so I get that, I understand that, and keeping up with young kids, as we all, you know, it can be very difficult. It is a job, but at some point in time, John, could you see Alex Rodriguez managing? I could. You brought up what he was able to go out there and do in Fox as an analyst, right? And I understand being an analyst and being a manager is completely different. He loves and adores the sport. The biggest difference between A-Rod and Derek Jeter, there are a lot of differences, but Derek Jeter didn't have the passion, love. A-Rod went home and watched baseball every single night, watched the West Coast games. He adores the games. He lives, eats, and breathes Major League Baseball. I could see him managing one day. Not right now, but one day.
I absolutely could, too. I get it. I have 2 daughters also. It's tough to manage them as they're growing up. You want to be a part of their young lives. But I think he said that because if he did become a manager, it would be 24/7, 365 for him. And I think he could be effective. But there's a lot that he needs to overcome in terms of his history to get to that point, if they announced the next Yankee manager was Alex Rodriguez at this point, I think there would be major blowback. Now, I do think he's qualified to do it. I think he'd be an excellent manager because he knows the game and he has the respect of his players. But right now, he's doing it the right way. Be the spring training instructor, stay in the mix, and then we'll see what happens down the road.
Hey, listen, if Barry Bonds can get a job again in baseball, I only know it lasted 1 year, but if he can get back into baseball, Alex Rodriguez can get back into baseball.